Hello, everybody. We're back today. We've got a new face with us. We've got Colton with Mr. Mike today. And today we're talking about ice dams. Just to recap, every 2 weeks we go live and ask questions about your burning pest issues. And we don't know what we're going to do 2 weeks from now yet, so feel free to chime in and let us know if there's a topic that you're interested in learning more about. But in the meantime, today we're talking about ice dams, and maybe you're wondering what that has to do with pest control, and we hope that Colton can explain some of that to all of you, and feel free to chime in with your own questions and to get started. So hey, thanks Colton for being here today.
No problem.
First question, I guess, is for me, why are ice dams a concern if left unresolved?
Basically, anytime you have an ice dam, you have a condition that basically could cause damage to your roof and everything that your roof is protecting. It's basically a water backup, freezing, can lift the shingles. Water can get inside a roof and cause leaks. You get water inside, you'll damage your insulation, you'll damage sheetrock, a number of other things that come with water damage as well. Your mold, mildew, pest issues, all those sort of things can happen just from an ice dam forming, and especially if left unresolved. So
there could be pest issues that come up then with that type of damage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. A lot of insects require moisture, so it's not at all uncommon for us to find evidence of carpenter ants and various types of insects like that. But real specifically, carpenter ants nesting in wood that has been wet. It increases the moisture content of the wood. It makes it very attractive for insects to nest in and damage.
Yeah.
So it really is relevant to pest management.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess, what is an ice dam? I mean, you kind of explained it a little bit, but is it the same as an icicle hanging off the edge of a roof, or?
No, they're different things. You can have an icicle without necessarily true damaging ice dams. When you have a lot of heat loss in an attic, that will transfer to the outside of the sheathing. The snow will melt, the water runs down to the edge of the roof, and when it gets beyond where that heat is, you can get freezing. Now, as that water hits a place where it starts to freeze, that ice is building up. The more that builds up, the more water that can stand behind it, and that's where the damage comes from.
So the water's got to go somewhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or it just keeps building up. There are extreme cases where you get so much weight that it will crush a structure or, do significant damage structurally, not just to, with water behind. But.
And so I guess, and we kind of just covered it, but to go back over what causes the ice dam, just the heat loss alone, or?
No, I mean, there are a number of factors, the pitch of the roof, the weather has a big part to do with it. And then, if you have a lot of heat loss, if you don't have sufficient insulation in your attic, then you can get that, extended heat loss. Also has to do with ventilation in an attic. If you don't have proper ventilation, you'll get, buildup of heat, humidity, all those sort of things that basically just not up to building code.
Interesting. And so, I mean, is it possible then that new construction can have ice dams, or is this more in older buildings that this is found?
No, I mean, just because, different towns have different codes. Some are still at an R30, most are at an R49. And again, it has a lot to do with ventilation. So if you have one contractor in that process of building a home that doesn't do something quite right, you could have, not enough ventilation. You could have things blocked off that shouldn't have been.
Yeah, we've seen situations where houses have been painted and the soffit vents have been painted over, so it reduces the airflow. So the construction was maybe adequate when it was built, but things change over time, and sometimes those things happen. People don't realize how that impacts the house's ability to breathe, and it really does need to be able to breathe and let that heat that escapes from the warm part of the house through the attic, so that you reduce the likelihood of having these ice dams develop.
Cool. Good to know. And so, what are some of the things that I could do if I found out that or realized now that I have ice dams, with the weather being as it is and the snow?
Well, the key for any homeowner is to keep the snow cleared off. That certainly helps. Basically to shovel off your roof if you get accumulation in valleys, or any area that's not getting a lot of sun or wind, that's going to clear the snow itself. The other things to do, it really comes down to, if you have it to a point where it can be causing damage, it needs to be removed. A lot of people will use a sledgehammer, a pickaxe, a hatchet, metal shovels, those sort of things to try and break that up, or the ice melting products, different pucks or calcium, or all those sort of things can lead to further damage anyway, whether you're banging away at a cold, brittle asphalt shingle. You're going to do damage to that, reduce the life of it. The ice melting products, the same thing, will eventually decay that material faster than it should. The only, what we do is to steam an ice dam. It's something new here in New England. You don't see it a lot. There are only a handful of companies throughout New England that have the right equipment. I think last I checked, we were the only ones in Maine using a steamer. And the difference is, you'll think, okay, they're using a pressure washer or something like that. Well, pressure washers literally can do damage to the shingle. They are under a high pressure situation. Even if they're hot, they still aren't steaming. So what we use is a very low pressure, high temperature steam to remove the ice. We steam anywhere from 275 to about 290 degrees, but at such a low temperature or pressure that it won't do damage. Just to see if it would cause damage, we've tried to take decals off of vehicles.
And you can't even wash a vehicle with this. This, it won't even take the dirt off. We tried that.
But it goes through ice unbelievably well.
Like cutting through butter with a warm knife.
So
it's really amazing.
Good for ice fishing holes then.
It could probably take a while, but
hadn't thought about that. But we should try that.
And having done a little research on this, it's something that like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, those areas, they've been doing this since the late 60s. They've been using steam to remove ice dams, and they're at a pretty similar weather to us. There are companies there that they literally do up to like 10,000 roofs a year.
Wow.
And it's a way to do it without causing damage. You don't use many metal products while you're doing it. If you had to shovel some snow, you use a plastic roof rake or a plastic shovel to get down to the ice dam, and you just use, it's quite gentle, really, a gentle steam to remove the ice dam.
Would it be a reoccurring type of need potentially then?
It can be. It is a Band-Aid to a bigger problem. You have heat loss, you have lack of airflow, you have something that can be causing it. And part of why, we as, pest professionals began doing this is my division has a wildlife segment where we're already comfortable with roofs. We have all the equipment. And we also have the ability to blow in a pest control insulation that gives you different features and benefits than a normal insulation would. So not only can we remove the immediate problem or threat of the ice dam, but we can also take a look, evaluate, and try and offer a solution to prevent it from happening again.
So it's a long-term fix,
Right,
versus
right.
that Band-Aid like you just mentioned,
Right.
which, I suppose some people have to do the Band-Aid,
Right.
but would ultimately prefer to
Absolutely.
just not have to deal with it at all
Right,
again.
right, and as with any of the things I think that we talk about, we talk a lot about conducive conditions, and in this scenario, the conducive condition that really creates most of this is the heat loss. So we do have services available to help with that too. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people, especially New Englanders, hate the idea of, seeing their oil
Right.
bill.
Your dollars going through the roof
Right.
and potentially damaging your home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a big concern, I'm sure. So, what can I expect then if I were to have you guys come in, and do an ice dam removal service? What would that look like?
Well, we come out and we evaluate. It's not necessarily something we can just give a price over the phone. We have to be able to see it. We have to see how severe it is, how high it is, what type of duration it's going to take us to get rid of it. But, for the job itself, what you would expect would be at least 2 people would show up, set up ladders, turn on the equipment, find a water source and power. If there's no power available, we run a generator. But we do have to have a cold water source, not hot water. So whether that's to like a utility room closet that has water source, or a washer hookup is a pretty typical one. We run that, turn everything on, the wand for the steamer start trickling water into, as it gets hotter and hotter, the sound actually changes. It goes into this kind of higher pitched blowing, and water stops dripping out of it, and it turns into a straight cloud of steam. On a cold day, it's actually a very impressive cloud of steam. Yeah.
So it doesn't freeze instantly like you see those pictures of boiling water that get tossed and turn into snow?
No,
not
looks like
those
a big
types.
cloud.
Not those types, yeah.
Yeah.
Cloud is kind of a good way to describe it, actually. It's kind of what it looks like,
Yeah.
So probably then, depending on the size of the ice dam, will depend on how long it takes then?
Yeah, most structures it's somewhat localized to whether it's one side or one valley of a roof, or just a section. It's generally not the whole thing. In some cases, it can be the entire building. It's a definite sign that there is heat loss throughout, and it's not as weather dependent. So,
well, one of those variables I think too were related to how the house sits in relation to the sun.
Yeah.
The angle of the sun. Temperatures, temperature extremes. A week like this week, to me, it's very cold this weekend. It's cold today. It's going to be cold for, I think, tomorrow. But by later in the week, we're talking temps in the mid 40s. So if you've got ice that's built along the edge of the roof now, and then you start, and there's no place that roof's melting, even just from the sun. Right. That water is going to build up, and if it can't get through that ice, it's going to go somewhere, and it's going to take the easiest route. Water will travel uphill. It will take the path of least resistance, and it will back up under the shingles.
Right.
I got a question here from Don Hart. Hey, Don. And we've kind of covered this before, but people that are tuning in now may not have heard. Can ice dams be prevented by insulating really well?
It can definitely help, but it's not just the insulation. You also have to have the airflow.
Yeah.
Insulation will help prevent heat loss from the living space into an unoccupied attic, but without the airflow to help regulate the temperature in the attic, it's only one piece. Right.
Yeah, it's a combination of the two, of the insulation and the ventilation.
Right.
Yeah. Good to know.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don. And I felt like I had another question there too. That's all right, Don. He said, sorry, I tuned in too late. But it's good to go back and cover over things.
Thanks for joining us, Don.
Everybody's in and out.
We were expecting you.
Yes. So, you kind of went over this already too, but for Don's sake, I'll ask, what are the benefits then of using low pressure steam or other solutions? And you kind of mentioned that. But.
Yeah, it really comes down to the potential for damage. Using high temperature, low pressure steam is actually a gentle way to cut through the ice without damaging, roofing material, shingles, anything like that. Your other alternatives are to physically beat them off with an axe, a pickaxe, a hammer, a shovel, something that you're inevitably going to do damage, whether it's to the wood, to the shingle. It's not good.
At an absolute minimum, you're going to reduce the length of the life of those shingles if you're up there, scraping that off, breaking it off, beating on it with a sledgehammer. You're going to impact the life of that roof. So.
Yeah. The other thing that you see fairly regularly are people using pressure washers to take ice dams off. And again, even the hot water pressure washers, they're not steaming. They're not getting up to that temperature. So they're relying on high pressure. And that pressure can do the same types of damage that a hammer or scraping a metal shovel or something like that would do to the shingle. You're reducing the life of, the cost of a roof can be astronomical. So, if you have a 50-year warranty on something, you certainly don't want to be reducing its life and having to do it again.
Well, I would imagine, pressure washers, aren't they used to peel paint off of houses and stuff? So you figure you're doing that to your roof.
Right, exactly.
A lot of different companies will try and pass off that the pressure washers they're using aren't doing damage. And when you compare the two, and this is one of the most simple things like a homeowner can look for, if there is a trigger on the wand of what they're spraying, it's a pressure washer. A steamer does not have an on-off switch or a trigger. Once it's on, it's blasting steam. There's no way to stop it. So if there's a trigger, it's doing damage. That's kind of one of the general rules that you look for.
That's a good one. So I think I've heard of people using garden hoses and just plain old water. Is that even a good idea?
You'd use an incredible amount of water.
Yeah.
The length that it would take to start breaking it down, you may be, adding in, just so much water that by the time it actually cuts through a more severe ice dam, you're already backing water up the roof further than need be. And like Mike said earlier, if it finds a path of least resistance, a hole, a nail hole, a crack, a seam, you're going to be dumping water into your own home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably looking too at, very large quantities of water trying to do that. And that water's going to go. That water's got to go somewhere. But I would also kind of really seriously wonder if most people's hot water system would even be able to ever produce enough hot water on an ongoing basis to cut through any substantial ice dam. I just don't think, particularly residentially, that probably most homes would be able to do that. And then that water's got to go somewhere. We're not adding water with this steam.
Just melting
yes,
away.
there's going to be some water because as the steam it melts, the water's going to run off the roof. But we're not adding more water to it. So we're not increasing the potential for damage. Taking the hose to your roof in January or February, even with hot water, I think you're potentially you may be making a problem worse.
Yeah. So Don asks, I apologize if you've already covered this, but what kinds of damage can occur if I don't get rid of the dams on my roof? We mentioned this at the very, very beginning, but I think it's a good way to close.
Yeah, and
go back over that.
And Colton mentioned this as far as the structural damage just the weight of the ice building up on a roof. I've seen roof trusses that have been cracked and broken before from ice dams. You know, so you have the potential for physical damage like that, but you're also, again, to go back to the pest management side of this, you are also substantially increasing the potential for having pest infestations develop in those areas where you get that moisture buildup. You know, again, to repeat, you know, the potential for carpenter ants nesting in an attic space that has had ice dams is very, very high.
And your thoughts on that, Colton?
Well, it's just, you know, the same thing he's saying is, you know, it's a water damage. You have the potential for the structural issues, the actual weight, whether it's the ice dam itself is the weight, or it holding back water, snow. That load can be too great for a roof. Also, you know, with the ice dam forming, the water being held back, that, you know, will cause all the same things that any other water damage would, a leaky roof would. You know, you get mold, mildew, water staining, sheetrock damage, insulation would be soiled and useless, and those all contribute to the pest issues that we see regularly.
So
along with all the other problems that we've talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
So not only just structural damage that's costly, but health concerns, because a lot of people are allergic to mold and mildew.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's...
Yeah, it certainly could contribute to that. Yep.
So Don says, this is far and away my favorite show, but I also love Good Bug, Bad Bug. When can I expect season 2 of that one? Soon. We'll keep you posted, Don. We'll keep you posted. Well, I think we've covered everything, unless anyone else has any questions. I think we've gotten them all, covered all of yours, Don. But thank you, both of you, for answering today's questions. And ice dams, you never would have thought that could be a pest issue, really, but it is.
Absolutely.
Well, great. So 2 more weeks, we'll be back. And again, feel free to chime in now or even later and let us know if there's another topic you're interested in hearing about. In the meantime, I'm sure we'll come up with something if we don't hear from anyone.
Oh yeah, we'll come up with something interesting. So make sure you're watching in 2 weeks.
Yep, we'll be here. Thanks, Colton.
Thank you.
All right, bye.